Okay, well, it's BB Scone here again in the wonderful cottage at the back of the tin shed in Larne with Americana Gold. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
Why's only one of you got lipstick on? That's what I want to know.
I've given it up.
I was told I was talking to a glam rock band this afternoon.
It's a little early in the day for me yet.
Okay.
I wait until the evening before I wear the
Before he
nice
comes
little
out.
sort of Chanel off the shoulder numbers and 20 denier hose. Very liberating.
And the spandex, what about your spandex? Where's that?
In my case, I could put it on for the show.
Okay. Okay, for our two viewers, Sid and Doris Bonkers of Eglisura, would you like to tell people who you are, what you do in the band then? Americana Gold.
That's right. We started off a couple of years ago as a band called the Californians, which is an 11-piece band.
Wow.
And we faithfully represented the works of like the American, sort of West Coast sound, which was like James Taylor,
Simon.
I heard you doing a
Simon.
Mums and Papas number
that's
during
right,
the
yeah.
sound check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the West Coast era in the 70s where all the songwriting was coming together, and they all used to stay in Laurel Canyon together, and they'd all write and they'd all go around to everybody else's houses. So you'd have Crosby, Stills and Nash turning up at Linda Ronstadt's place, or James Taylor popping in to have a chat with Carly Simon, or well, more than a chat with Carly Simon because he married her.
Wow.
But it would just be all that kind of sound, the Americana sound.
So you copied that, or you emulated that
Yes,
with California's 11-piece band.
Yeah,
Was the sex and drugs involved as well?
more like tea, milk,
Just the
Yeah,
drugs.
text and
Pringles.
trudge. And sausage rolls.
Because
Phyllis Ann.
that was a big part of that
and
scene.
Phyllis Ann.
Yeah, she was in it, Phyllis.
I'm still getting Strepsil flashbacks myself from those days. So anyway, what you and Lorraine, what do you do in the present band then?
Well, I do the sort of some songs. There's Joni Mitchell songs, and Carly Simon and Linda Ronstadt songs. But we also do our own songs as well. We do songwriting, in the Americana style.
We'll come on to that in a minute. I don't want to stop you in full flow,
No,
but
that's fine.
let's find out what the other guys, who are the other guys and what they do in the band. So you're,
The one and only Peter King.
Peter.
Right.
Peter King and Terry Thomas.
and you both play guitars, yeah?
We do, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how come the Californians got slimmed down? Where's the other 8 gone, You're not one over the 8 anymore.
We blame it on the recession, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's just that you can't get the venues really who can cope with the large bands. And another thing is that a lot of the musicians are so busy they just can't get together often enough.
Yeah. So you were all in the Californians, and
Yes.
did you
Yes.
meet up as part of that, or did you know each other before the Californians?
Well, no, we've all known each other for many, many years.
Right.
And it was just that we didn't feel that we could call this little threesome Californians. We felt it was better to sort of have a different name, but within the same, Americana Gold is what we came up with. But it's the same songs, because we just felt that we would be taken away from the 11-piece band if we called it ourselves, and that wasn't fair, really.
Right.
So we decided to just, be a 3-piece so that we could just go out and do more venues. It's so
Okay.
expensive to do,
Yeah, it must be hard
Yeah.
travelling with a big band, and
Yeah.
money's
Yeah.
not that much in
It's much
small
more
town
practical
gigs
like
as well.
this.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to put an entirely all acoustic kind of spin on the music, which was very acoustically oriented.
Yeah.
And in some respects actually expand on the range of songs that we were doing. So, what we could take away with not having the 11-piece band, we could make up for in other ways.
Do you all sing then? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's important if you're looking at people like Crosby, Stills and Nash and
Indeed,
all
yes.
those. You need the voices.
Is this a lasting treasure, or just a moment's pleasure? Can I believe the magic of your sighs? Will you still love me tomorrow? Tonight with words unspoken, you say that I'm the only one. morning sun. I'd like to know that your love is a love I can be sure of. So tell me now, and I won't ask again. Will you still love me tomorrow? Tonight with words unspoken, you say that I'm the only one. But will my heart be broken when the night meets the morning sun? So tell me now, and I won't ask again. Will you still love me tomorrow? Will you still love me tomorrow? Will you still love me tomorrow?
Do you do original material now as well,
Yes, some of
in the same vein?
Yeah. Terry and I are in a band called Trenchfoot.
Yes, fine,
you
fine
and-
bunch of human beings, splendid bunch of people.
Well, I've interviewed Trenchfoot for the Radio Pembrokeshire show I've had, but you
Yes,
two
that's
weren't
right.
members at the time. So I know they've expanded to a 6-piece from a
That's
4-piece,
right,
haven't
yes.
they?
Yeah, we've brought an Americana sound to Trenchfoot.
We
'Cause
think
we
of
like the
ourselves as
harmonies.
we think of ourselves as the Stevie Nicks and Lindsay Buckingham. Trenchfoot.
You dream on.
Dream on.
Yeah.
Well, no, it remains to be seen. When you're going to make a concert here at the Tin Shed
Yeah.
today, record a concert.
Yeah.
We shall see. What about you, Pete, then? You're not in Trenchfoot.
No, I'm not in Trenchfoot.
I hear you've got an illustrious history in music, though. A little bird has told me. Tweet, tweet.
Oh no, don't listen to them.
Didn't you,
I
did you
just-
tour with Bonnie Tyler? Is that correct? Or
I
not?
did many years
Yes,
ago.
there
Yes.
you are.
Oh.
Well, why do you want to
Before the
hide that
war.
light under that particular bushel then?
Oh, I don't know. I don't like to die. I just don't like
Okay.
speaking about those things.
But
It's very enjoyable, and I met a lot of people, and it introduced me to a lot of different types of music, and got me a lot of recording sessions afterwards. That's really what happened.
Yeah.
Is I got into the recording after that, and I always planned to have something at home when all the touring finished, which I did, and but I also used to get a lot of session singing work, harmony and guitar playing,
Yeah.
which helped a lot.
Yeah.
But
So-
now the whole music scene's changed nationally,
Yeah.
so there's not so much of that work about anymore.
Well, it's very difficult to make a living from the music scene, full stop now. I
Now
mean,
it is.
getting gigs, you can't sell records because people download the music and what have you.
That's right.
So, are you full-time professionals?
Yes.
Really? So you must have other strings to your particular
We do,
bows
yes.
than just Trenchfoot or whatever. So what else do you do when you're not
I'm singing for the brain leader with the Alzheimer's Society.
right?
So I sing all sorts of different songs to stimulate people with dementia-related illness, and that's lovely. I do that part time, and then just singing wherever I can. Other than that,
In the bath?
In the
That
bath.
Mostly, frequently in the
In the
bath.
kitchen.
But that must be rewarding, though, what you're doing with Alzheimer's. Do you find that it kind of helps stave off the advance of the illness, or I just...
With some people, music can neurons make new connections within the brain. So, for instance, if somebody comes to a session, then they can be stimulated, and the effects of a good session, singing, having songs that they know and they can remember, makes them feel that they've participated, and the effects of it can last a week. It can make somebody's mood, lift. So it becomes a bit of a lifeline to the people who come, really.
So I mentioned earlier about drugs in the Californian scene. But as far as Alzheimer's are concerned, music can be as effective as treating people with drugs, really.
Oh, well, it is, and there's a lot of research going into it. And it's kind of, some people with Alzheimer's have got parts of their brain which are missing, if you like. And if you can imagine it, neurons firing over are creating new synapses. And that's, one person, bless her, she came to a session, and it was the first time I said, "What's your name?" And the carer said, "She doesn't talk, don't bother speaking to her, because she's just coming to listen." Within about a couple of weeks, I heard this noise at the back, and she was singing Carl La, and she'd found her voice. She was Carl La and croaking. But then within a couple more weeks, we were singing Daisy, Daisy, and I suddenly heard this voice on its own singing, "Dandy, dandy, the coppers are after you. If they catch you, they give you a month or two. They tie you up with wire behind a black Mariah. So ring the bell and pedal like hell on a bicycle made for two on her own."
That's fantastic.
Just came back to her,
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that must give you a great sense of achievement.
Yes.
Without sounding glib, it must be really rewarding to be able to do something like that.
It's not many people can go to a day job and make people very, very happy. Yeah. That's nice, isn't it?
But that's one of the functions of music. One of the reasons I'm not a musician. I like being involved with music. I listen to music because it uplifts me, really. But you must get a great joy from being on stage and seeing people's faces.
Oh yes, undoubtedly. I see 160 people every fortnight.
Yeah.
With I go from actually there's a fortnightly session. If anybody's listening to this and they're living in Whitland, they can come along on a Friday afternoon 2 to 4 in the Memorial Hall there. It's once a fortnight. It's called the QT Club.
Right.
I sing there, and I also do a session in Carmarthen, if anybody wants to. And that's in Cartref Cynnes, which is the new day centre, facility in Johnstown.
Okay, do you have a website then where people could go to? Or
Well, they can go to the Alzheimer's website, which is
Right.
alzheimers.org.uk,
Yeah.
and they can put in Singing for the Brain in Carmarthenshire, and then it'll give the details. Or they can ring the Alzheimer's office, which is 01269 597 411, and they'll give them all the details. See, I'm very plugging.
She's very good at these plugs, aren't you?
Helplessly holding her harlequin hovers nearby, waiting a word, gasping at glimpses of gentle true spirit. He runs, wishing he could fly, only to trip at the sound of goodbye. Wordlessly watching, he waits by the window and wonders at the empty place inside. Heartlessly helping himself to her bad dreams, he worries till he hear a goodbye, or even hello. One person, they are two lonely each other. Stand by the stairway, you'll see something certain to tell you. Confusion has its cost. Love isn't lying, it's loose in a lady who lingers, saying she is lost and choking on hello. They are one person, they are two alone, they are three together, they are four for each other.
What do you want to plug, you guys, then? What do you do when you're not in California?
Well, it's still in the music scene.
Yeah, that's what I
We
mean, in the
have,
music
I have
scene.
a studio, a recording facility, which I've had since 1979, and people still hire it
Where is that?
in Swansea.
So, who have you had through the studio? Oh, the big names we've had here. Some brand new scratch on piano. It took us £5 to put it right. And all that.
Well, it's been a varied time, really. Singers, songwriters, groups, TV program, music for TV, incidental music, all sorts, any sort of recording, voiceovers, storybooks.
Who have you enjoyed
You
most
name
dealing
it.
with then?
Oh, not.
I'm not going to ask you who you haven't enjoyed.
Musically, really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Musically.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, everyone is very nice to deal with musically.
Well, it's my favourite of all is an act called Cuba,
Right.
and Quuuba.
Quuba.
Quuuba.
These youngsters and the wacky names they think.
He'd be very.
Oh, it's one person.
He'd be very happy
As
if
a
you
writer,
called him
yeah.
a
Oh,
youngster.
right.
Yeah, I'm sure he would.
Okay.
He is.
Tell us about him then.
Well, actually, it's a little group that Lorraine was part of, and a man called Paul Carman, good old friend of mine, and we've worked together for years. In fact, we hopefully will be soon again. I hope, And he's a great writer. He's a good, great musician and writer. He's wonderful talent.
Fabulous lyricist.
Unheard of, but he really is something special. And his songs are just so different, and very enjoyable to record and take part in.
Well, what were they different then?
Well, he's a master. He's got a wonderful command of the language for a start,
English.
which he adopts, which he adapts English in his songs, in a way that I've never seen.
Okay.
Extremely clever,
I was just going to give an example, right?
Yeah.
I was going to sing Silent Friend.
Well, you could do, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a brilliant chorus, right? This is
Go on then.
typical. It goes, please don't hurt my silent friend. He's all alone, he could overload in minutes. Please don't make him cry again. He doesn't know you have no emotion in it. I mean, just 2 lines. What, unusual command.
That's great, but Cuba's probably the most enjoyable musical part. With regard to anything else, there's been a couple of people like Roy Noble who's come down and do voiceovers, and he was always a good laugh, very entertaining, a lovely fella.
Loads of stories he's got.
Stories, and it's a pleasure to be with, and people like that are great.
What about you, Terry?
Well, I have known these two wonderful people for longer than I care to mention.
Don't mention.
I didn't. We got away with that. What can I tell you about me? I have the joy of working with Lorraine and Peter. I've also the joy of working with Lorraine and the guys from Trenchfoot, who I never expected to be in, but it's turned out to be a wonderful experience that is still intriguing, fascinating, provocative, and they really are a joy beyond words to be a part of. It's a real honour. I also I'm involved with another straight covers band called The Distributors. They're some old friends, and we do regular sort of pub things just to keep us amused from time to time. I teach guitar in a music shop in Llanelli called Cardinal Music, run by a very dear old friend of mine. And I also have the luxury of being a full-time university student at Swansea Met, the University of Wales, Trinity St David's, where I'm hoping to shortly complete my second year as a master's degree music student in music technology.
Right.
So it keeps me out of mischief.
So you're the sound man for these
No,
guys,
quite the
quite the
opposite.
opposite.
No.
Well, he's tone deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey?
Technical, forget it.
Ooh.
Great songwriter,
Second
is
year.
Terry.
Well,
He's a
Terry's-
wonderful songwriter. He
Wonderful
hasn't told you that.
songwriter.
Wow.
Again,
I mean-
another wordsmith.
I get from what you're talking about, I mean, melody's important to you, the harmony of the voices and words.
Yeah.
And going back to the Californians you mentioned, I mean, for example, when I mentioned Mamas and Papas, I think they were a great songwriter, John Phillips.
John
I think
Phillips,
he was a great lyricist.
Absolutely.
I'm biased because I had a thing about Michelle Phillips when I was...
Who didn't?
Who didn't?
Who didn't?
Was she the big one? No.
Yeah, that
No,
was
it's
the
not
one.
like that.
You got it.
I used to have the first album was banned in this country because there was a picture of them all in,
Before
there in
them.
the bath, and the other three, Denny Doherty,
Yeah.
Mama Cass, John Phillips, all in the bath with her. But there was a picture of a toilet, and in 1966
Wow.
when it
Right.
probably came out,
I have it.
you weren't allowed to. Have you got the
I've got it in stereo.
censored or the two toilets either side
Yes,
of the bath,
that's right,
stereo
yeah.
toilets, with the toilet or without the toilet?
I can't remember actually. I
Because
don't-
what they did, sorry to interrupt you, they stuck a
Yeah.
sticker over it.
I can't remember. I remember buying
Did
a
they?
copy of it in mono in this country,
Yeah.
and actually having to get an American trade record paper to get a stereo copy from New York many years ago, just so I could have it in stereo.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
One of my absolute heroes, the Mamas and the Papas.
So you had a thing about Michelle like me as well.
I know. It was all about the music.
Yeah, of course it was. I can't remember what the cover looked like at all. I've got no idea.
I can remember the bath. I can't remember
Yeah.
the.
All the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray, and the sky is gray. I've been for a walk, on a winter's day, I'd be safe and warm, if I was in LA, California dreaming, on such a winter's day. Stopped into a church, I passed along a blue way. Well, I got down on my knees, and I pretend to pray. You know the preacher like the cold, he knows I'm gonna stay. California dreaming, on such a winter's day. All the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray. I've been for a walk, on a winter's day. If I didn't tell her, I could leave today. California dreaming, on such a winter's day. On such a winter's day.
come to, I mean, I've not heard your full set yet. I mean, you did a Phil Spector number, you did a Mamas and Papas number. I was wondering about, I haven't heard your full set. When you come to write, is it in that vein? And how does it work when you write? Who does what?
Yes, I'm sure it's in that vein. It's all unconsciously, really. It's all influenced by this West Coast music, simply because we've grown up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
So-
everybody's a result of their influences, really.
Of course
And
they
that's-
are.
and that's what comes through.
Yeah.
But with a bit extra, I hope, these days.
Well, that's what I think. You mentioned you're in a covers band. I mean, I'm very ambivalent about covers because Johnny Be Good and Mustang Sally are great songs, but if I never hear them done in a pub again, I won't be unhappy.
Yeah.
But there isn't anything original in music. Everything that comes is built on what went before.
Yes,
Would you agree with me
indeed,
there?
yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that's happened is that these songs that nobody saw happening 45, 50 years ago, they won't go away.
No.
And generations, a number of generations, have grown up with their parents playing them, and I have the luxury of teaching 14 and 15-year-olds who still want to hear Eric Clapton playing Layla and the Beatles. And I think the bottom line is, you know, if you go back to the great writers of the 30s, people like Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, a number of giant luminaries, those songs don't want to go away. And I guess that one of the really important things about that is that these things speak to, they're multi-generational, and I think a good song will last. Many of the great artists that are still with us have had careers which have spanned 40 and 50 years, and nobody saw that coming 50 years ago.
No, I mean, in the 50s they wanted to be all-round entertainers, certainly in this country, and become end-of-the-pier pantomime stars, which some people like Tommy Steele did. But no, you're right. Well, hope I die before I get old, or when I'm 64.
Yeah,
it was that kind of
indeed,
attitude.
indeed. But I think it speaks volumes to the actual quality of the songwriting, that these things they won't go away simply because they're too good to go away.
Do you think there's any contemporaries around who, you know, our grandchildren will be listening to? When
I don't think there are many, and I think those that are going to be with us for a while are, as Nancy Griffith once put it on an album, a new light through an old window. I've got a lot of time for a gentleman called Ed Sheeran,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
and there are a few others who are exploiting the same style of music as he exploits, and it's a very old, established style. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't want to go away.
Yeah.
And I suppose psychologists could spend hours, looking at the whys and the wherefores of this. But it speaks to many generations, binds generations together, and we still love it. And we wouldn't do it if we didn't love it. We wouldn't write material in this vein if we didn't love it. And I think it says something about the fact that, Carl Jung once said that the artist hasn't got any real control over what they do. They're conduits.
Yes.
And I think I watched Lorraine spin words like, like someone knitting at a ridiculous. I watched her doing this the other morning. Okay, and I was absolutely stunned by the way she could sit.
He came up with a line, and then that was it.
And she just, it was like handing, JPR Williams the ball at one end of the field and saying, go and score a try. And I was absolutely stunned by the way she could just sit in front of the keyboard and rattle out three absolutely terrific
But then we took
verses.
we took it to Peter, to the studio, and now it's in the next stage now where we've locked the chords, we sort of do the middle eighth, then I'll go back and we rehome the lyrics. You can, this is.
But that's it. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm going to say what's really heartening at the moment is that in Britain they've started the Americana charts. It's a new thing, and I think it's a long time coming, because I'd be stuck. I'm not a folk. You're either a folk person or a country, and what we're doing is neither. It is Americana, and suddenly we've got this chart, and I think that's the most hopeful thing I've heard in years.
It's great that the Tin Shed here is putting on a weekend of Americana and highlighting some of the great artists like yourself, he said in unashamed puff, and also visiting Americans and Canadians that we've got here this weekend as well. So, you know, that's really good. Just like to pick on something you said, though, but I'm interested in the fact that you said songwriting is a bit like a conduit. It just comes to you. But then you also said you've got to craft it then. You can't just... I mean, one Californian we haven't mentioned is Captain Beefheart. His lyrics are like a jumble of nonsense. But I mean, there was some artifice, there was craft there. You can't just talk a stream of consciousness.
No. Although, you could argue that some have, and yet, you know, there is a more than that. Yes, the artist is a conduit. I have a very dear friend who will sit up all night and write lyrics. He doesn't even know where they come from, but he writes beautiful lyrics as well. But there is still that shaping. Your inspiration may come from somewhere else, but then the many years of crafting and sculpting lyrics into a form, that's something else. I think that's where the artist really does bring themselves to the table. I mean, Peter will do it in many different ways, musically, in arrangements, in ideas, and Lorraine will do it with lyrics and with music and musical ideas. It's very much a question of drawing on the things that we love, on things that we actually love about music. And I suppose you could argue that we're all recycling.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, by the same token, if you could recycle something old into something new, I think that's really a skill in its own right. Absolutely.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think we've got to wind up now, though. We've been talking for a heck of a lot of time. It's about time you went on stage there in the Tin Shed, and I think socked it to them.
Thank you.
We better go get our flares on, I think.
Yeah. And thank you so...
Lipstick.
Yeah.
You put the lipstick
I
on
will.
them. Yeah. Thanks so much for talking to me. It's been a pleasure.
My
I've
pleasure.
enjoyed
Thank
hearing
you.
what you've got to
Thank
say.
you.
Thank
Now
you for
I'm
having
going to
us.
enjoy you singing.
Thank you.
We hope
Thank you,
so.
baby.
How we watched them go with their heads held high through the tears and cheers of the last goodbye, standing proud and tall, marching to the drum. It'll all be over before Christmas comes, and we'll keep the flame always burning bright in the hearts and souls on the darkest night. All our hopes and prayers for all we yearn is the ones we love someday return. As the months went by, though our face was brave, the price was the digging of another grave. Someone's husband, father, brother, son, in the name of God, when will this all be done? And we'll keep the flame always burning bright in the hearts and souls on the darkest night. All our hopes and prayers and for all we yearn is the ones we love someday return. Through the winters and the summers, springs and falls, a man with a telegram too often calls, bearing deepest regrets from his majesty. It's the line of duty, it's the tragedy. When the long years pass it came, those it left behind would never be the same. Time to mourn the dead, time to count the cost, that nobody wins when everybody lost. And we'll keep the flame always burning bright in our hearts and souls on the darkest night. All our hopes and prayers and for all we yearn is the ones we love someday return. And we'll keep the flame always burning bright in our hearts and souls on the darkest night. All our hopes and prayers and for all we yearn is the ones we love someday return.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.